In the eyes of some NFL scouts, Eagles general manager Howie Roseman in the 2025 NFL Draft did it again. We're talking about that on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. Hope everybody out there is having a fantastic Thursday as May is officially underway and you're getting set and ready to have a fantastic weekend. So here's everything that we're going to go through on today's show. An offensive line expert absolutely loves what the Eagles did specifically, of course, with his expertise along the offensive line. And then we're going to go through multiple scouts who weighed in on some of these Eagles draft picks. Before we do all of that, let's go Birds. If you are loving life as an Eagles fan these days, flexing your muscles a little bit because the Eagles are the Super Bowl champs, most well-run organization in the sport, Howie Roseman had another great draft, then I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. So with that, let's get the official show underway. And I was looking at this Substack that Brandon Thorne wrote. He's an NFL offensive lineman expert. He puts together the Trench Warfare newsletter, and he covers offensive line football and, of course, the defensive line for places like Bleacher Report. Offensive line masterminds, Duke Mayweather leads that, and he's a fantastic private offensive line coach. Lane Johnson, for instance, works with him in Frisco, Texas. And then Brandon Thorne also puts together pieces for publications like Establish the Run, and he's a Joe Moore Award voter. And in the process of that, it's an award for the best offensive line units in college football. And as we know, with this Eagles 2025 draft class, Howie Roseman, he always likes to build up the trenches, as we like to say. And the Eagles last year won the Super Bowl in part because they had a top 5 offensive line. Saquon Barkley set the record for the most rushing yards in a single season behind that 5-man front. Jalen Hurts able to play his best football in the biggest of games in the NFC Championship game and in the Super Bowl, partially because he was given protection by that Eagles offensive line. But Howie Roseman firmly believes in gathering as much talent as he can in the trenches along the offensive line and defensive line. So even though the Eagles had a fantastic offensive line last year, he still drafted 3 more big boys up front. Drew Kendall, the Boston College center, in the 5th round. Cameron Williams, Texas offensive tackle, in the 6th round. And then Myles Hinton, the Michigan offensive tackle who transferred from Stanford, in the 6th round as well. And so Brandon Thorne had high grades on the 3 draftees for the Eagles along the offensive line. He had a late round 4 grade on Drew Kendall, so he went later than what Brandon Thorne thought would have transpired in the draft. He had a late round 4 grade on Myles Hinton, and he had a round 3 grade on Cameron Williams, who I called one of the biggest steals in the NFL draft. And producer Reed Barkus here at Chat Sports, you know him very well on Eagles Now because he's always sending in super chats. He comes here on the show. He's a big Eagles fan. He was just flying to Philly for a wedding. Guess who he was sitting next to on his flight? Cameron Williams, probably making his way to Philadelphia for Eagles rookie minicamp. And Howie Roseman has talked about this before. He believes in NFL bloodlines. And with a couple of these offensive line draftees, Drew Kendall and Myles Hinton, their fathers started a combined 365 games along the offensive line. And so they have that type of football pedigree. Here's what Thorne said on the Eagles draft in the trenches. He said, Kendall was added for depth at the position behind newly re-signed starter Cam Jurgens. Kendall brings 37 games of starting experience at center, predominantly inside a run-heavy zone-based scheme that is similar to what the Eagles run. He is a sticky run blocker with a firm grasp of leverage, angles, and enough play strength to seal off lanes and die slowly in his anchor. This should win him the backup center job outright. Kendall also adds flexibility to the interior in case Cam Jurgens needs to kick back to right guard if Kenyon Green, Tyler Steen, or Trevor Keegan fail to lock down that job. Obviously, that latter part, somewhat interesting. The Eagles did compensate Cam Jurgens a couple of weeks ago, and he deserves it. Second highest average annual value at the center position in the NFL, most guaranteed money at the center position in the NFL. Ideally, you keep him there. He's best as a center, compared to as a right guard where he played 2 years ago in the final year of Jason Kelce. But the Eagles offensive line, it's a special group here. The big question mark, Tyler Steen. I think the Eagles made that C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade for Kenyon Green because they think that Green is promising, even though he's been awful to start his career as a former top 15 pick. They let Mekhi Becton go to the Chargers because they believe that Steen, a former third-round pick and college offensive tackle, can be a legitimate player there. And Jason Kelce even said, look, Tyler Steen has it. He's good. He just needs to be a little bit more consistent. And then, of course, Brandon Thorne pointing out some of the backup interior offensive linemen there. The Eagles drafted Trevor Keegan last year. They trade for Kenyon Green. They signed Matt Pryor, who honestly was really solid for the Chicago Bears last year, where I think Kendall kind of comes into play here. I think he is going to be the backup center behind Cam Jurgens. I think he beats out Brett Toth, and I think that he's that guy there who, if Cam Jurgens does get hurt, obviously he had that back surgery after the Super Bowl, Kendall can step in, and with all of that experience, with that high football IQ, he could play and be serviceable. And good football IQ because of the experience, because his pops played in the NFL. He learned from him, shields well in pass protection, moves well in zone blocking setups. Positional flexibility, definitely that question mark there with 0 career non-center snaps, so he's going to have to learn that guard spot. As for what Brandon Thorne said about Williams and Hinton, he said Williams and Hinton represent 2 shrewd, high upside swings at addressing the swing tackle role and adding additional right guard competition. If either hits, they could become the long-term replacement for Lane Johnson after he retires. Both players are massive, easy movers, who are inexperienced with underdeveloped raw skill sets. They landed in the ideal situation to reach their best possible outcomes as pro players inside Jeff Stoutland's renowned developmental pipeline. And if you're Williams, if you're Hinton, and you find out that you get drafted by the Eagles and you get to get coached by the best offensive line coach in the NFL, in the aforementioned Stoutland, I imagine that they were jumping for joy. Now, Cam Williams, sometimes he's a little slow in the college football playoff. He got beat by some speed rushers. He is raw. If he would have returned to Texas and played well, he could have gotten first-round buzz in 2026. If he doesn't work out at tackle, I think that he can be an excellent guard. Kind of like that transition that we saw from Mekhi Becton. I think Hinton is more of an offensive tackle, but the thing is when you take a guy with that size, and if he doesn't work out at tackle, you can always pop him to the interior, something that I imagine the Eagles have talked about. And then the UDFA, who the Eagles added, who Brandon Thorne did not talk about, Holland Pierce out of Rutgers. He has massive size, a huge wingspan, a lot of experience while playing for the Scarlet Knights. He got better every year that he was with that program, especially as a run blocker. He needs to get a little bit more refined, and he needs to get a little bit more physical and living up to that size. But this is another player who, in that Jeff Stoutland player development pipeline, can end up being a very solid player. And, of course, I share the same team building strategy as Howie Roseman. Games are won and lost up front in the trenches. Outside of quarterback, you can make the argument offensive line over defensive line is the most important position group on a football roster. Before we continue to move forward on today's show, let's hear from you. Who is your favorite rookie who the Eagles drafted in this draft class? We'll hear from some NFL scouts coming up just around the corner. Our friends at Fanatics making today's show possible. If you want an Eagles jersey, get yours today at chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. I saw some comments down in the comment section. People were asking, are they replica or are they authentic jerseys? Fanatics has everything you really want, from high-end jerseys to more affordable jerseys, depending on what your price point is. So all you have to do, use that link down below, chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. It'll take you to Fanatics. You can get an Eagles jersey this summer, get swagged out, rep the Super Bowl champs, support them, and then, of course, you'll have that jersey for the start of the season. And then, therefore, when you make a purchase using that link, Fanatics will know that Chat Sports, Chase Sr., and Philadelphia Eagles now sent you. All right, now let's get to should I say that? Did I say that right? Let's get to what some of NFL scouts said about some of the Eagles draftees. It's been a long last couple of weeks. Haven't had a day off in a little while here because of the NFL draft, but we continue to give you great content. Let's roll. NFL scouts really like the Eagles selection of Jahan Campbell because of the athlete who he is, the player who he's been for that Alabama Crimson Tide program, and of course the value of him sliding all the way to the 31st overall pick. An NFL scout to go long, fantastic Substack. He said, Jahan Campbell is all over the field. Explosive, nasty. They do everything with this guy. He's a former defensive end. He has got bad intentions. He can blitz. He can cover. I love this guy. Mid-first round pick. Of course, that NFL scout said that in the lead up to the draft, and I agreed with that, and I agree with all of that, right? I think Campbell was a top 15 player in this draft. The Eagles had him as a top 10 player, and I love what was said there too. Jahan Campbell plays with bad intentions. He really does. Shot out of a cannon, hair on fire, uber aggressive, very physical. Go look up the hit that he put on new Giants quarterback Jackson Dart, who the Giants traded into the first round for, knocked his helmet off. He just plays with so much fire and so much energy. And when you get a player that good, who was the best defender on that Alabama team at 31, that's exceptional value. And he fits what the Eagles look for in their players. Loves ball, constant pursuit, a nonstop motor, and Eagles fans are really, really going to love his game because of the swagger, confidence, aggression, and the attitude that he plays with. Here's another NFL scout to The Athletic on Jahan Campbell. I think he's a legit top 20 guy. He's so explosive. He plays violent. He's got all the traits in his body. And we'll see how the Eagles use him. I think a good NFL comp for him is Zach Bond. Campbell even said it himself after he was selected by the Eagles. And by the way, his grandfather, I believe, or dad, a diehard Eagles fan. Campbell said that when he found out I got drafted to the Eagles, he damn near fainted. Pretty cool story there. But going back to the Campbell-Bond comp, think about how the Eagles used Zach Bond. Think about how the Saints used Zach Bond. He was strictly an outside linebacker, edge rusher, pass rusher with New Orleans. The Eagles sign him. Vic Fangio sees that he can play off ball. First team All-Pro in his first season playing off-ball linebacker. But how did Vic Fangio use Zach Bond? As a blitzer in between the tackles, and then when the Eagles wanted to load the box or show the offense a different look, you use Zach Bond as an edge rusher. And Campbell has that pedigree. He was recruited out of IMG Academy to Alabama as an edge. He has the traits, the length, the size, the athleticism, the speed, the skill set to play edge. But he can also cover. He can also run. And so I think it's an advantage that he has that versatility to his game. I don't look at it as a downer that he's a tweener. Here's what a defensive coach in the NFL said to The Athletic about Campbell. He's the best inside linebacker in this draft by far. He has range, is versatile, has good burst and closing speed. He's a good space player, good blitzer. He can slip blocks and get back to a good power position. He is still a little raw. He's better than Edgerrin Cooper. He's more explosive and has a really good football IQ. Only knock might be his instincts, and that's just because he hasn't played stack backer as much as some of these other guys. Now, a lot of people don't think that Jahan Campbell is going to be a green dot Mike linebacker. That's fine. For instance, last year, Nakobe Dean was wearing the green dot. He got hurt, and then Zach Bond wore the green dot. Green dot, that's when the defensive coordinator relays the plays to you, and you relay those plays to your teammate. I think the Edgerrin Cooper comp is pretty interesting. Myself and a lot of you during the pre-draft were very high on Edgerrin Cooper when he was coming out of Texas A&M. Him and Campbell, similar runners. Right in that 4.5 range, 40-yard dash. Edgerrin Cooper, a 9.34 relative athletic score, and Jahan Campbell, similar athletic attributes. As for Andrew Mukuba, when the Eagles drafted him at 64, I was like, okay, I was expecting him to be an Eagles draft target. We had talked about him in the lead up to the draft, but I was more so talking about him as a third or fourth round player. Eagles get him with the final pick in the second round, although I did think it was a little bit of a reach. NFL scouts a little bit mixed on Mukuba. Here's what one said. He played safety this year. They moved him for a reason. He is probably a better safety. He played more nickel corner last year. He likes to tee off on people. That's what he will do. He's probably in that third to fourth range. He's not special, more of a big hitter type with the small body. And he is under 190 pounds. And so he is a smaller player in a cornerback type of body, but he has 4.4 speed, definitely plays bigger than his size. He plays like C.J. Gardner-Johnson as far as the effort level and the spirit. I like the versatility. Howie said after the draft, box safeties are no longer a thing anymore. And I kind of agree with how the NFL has changed philosophically on the offensive side of the football. And to counter that, these DBs, they have value because you can play deep safety and you can play slot nickel. You're comfortable playing deep, having ball skills, which Mukuba did, lowest passer rating when targeted among all safeties in college football last year, but it can also play in the box or around the line of scrimmage and make plays against the run. Here's what a DB's coach said about Mukuba. He is like a missile. He didn't play very well at Clemson, and I think he's fighting that perception some. He was playing nickel there. I think he's a better safety. He has good range in the deep part of the field. He's very good in the underneath part of the field because he's twitchy and explosive. His slot coverage is solid for a safety. Good tackler, but some of his misses look pretty bad. He pulls the pin and slices people down. I think he's going to be a good starter. I think he's undervalued. I look at some of these mocks, and there's such a wide range to him where he's behind some other guys, and I'm like, no, I don't see that. The only knock to me is his weight. He's a $186, and he doesn't look like the stoutest dude. And he's not, but again, the level of physicality is decreased in the NFL. So you can get away with having players who are a little bit lighter, but I said this really before it became a popular talking point when we were reacting to this pick live. The play style, very similar to C.J. Gardner-Johnson, but Gardner-Johnson was and is bigger. Coming out of the draft, when he was leaving Florida, he was 210 pounds. And so he had 20 to 25 pounds on Andrew Mukuba. As for Ty Robinson, he's getting a lot of buzz from Eagles fans on social media, and a lot of people are saying he is the modern-day J.J. Watt. The build is similar. I would say Watt was a little bit faster and explosive, although Ty Robinson ran a 4.8 40-yard dash at about 290 pounds. He is explosive and twitchy, but it's more the quick, immediate twitch, not like the long-form twitch, whereas J.J. Watt was kind of fast for a long time. But then, and that's just me judging him on tape, but then you think about Ty Robinson, the 40-yard dash, he runs the 4.8, and that's 40 yards, which is pretty good right there. So the NFL scouts' feedback on Ty Robinson is very interesting. Big body, thick dude, really strong and powerful, plays with an extremely high motor. He empties his tank, good first step and quickness, heavy hands, knocks blockers back. He can club an offensive lineman off his feet. That's awesome. He can pry combo blocks open. He can bull rush a blocker into the quarterback. Has some short area close and runs well. It's hard for him to get skinny in a gap because of his size. When he gets tired, his pad level can rise and hand placement can get sloppy, and he becomes more of a brawler, mauler type. And the other thing with Watt, like his motor was ridiculous. Robinson plays with a motor, but sometimes he can get a little bit winded. J.J. Watt was known historically for his work ethic. I mean, what he did training-wise is what led to him being one of the best defensive players in the 2010s. Another scout, and I like this a lot, said about Ty Robinson, bull in a china shop type of player. He can play defensive end too, that's my opinion, and defensive tackle in Vic Fangio's scheme, depending on the look that Fangio gives the offense. I like that versatility as well for Ty Robinson. Now, Daniel Jeremiah had Central Florida corner who transferred from UAB, Mac McWilliams, as a top 150 player. A lot of other people had Mac McWilliams lower. Of note, Daniel Jeremiah last year was also very high on Jalix Hunt, much higher than the consensus. and the Eagles took him in the 3rd round surprisingly. He looks to be a stud. Smael Mondon is an interesting player. And he's a really good athlete who's long. He's a little bit slender in the torso, but he led linebackers in the broad jump at the NFL Combine. He led linebackers in the bench press with 25 reps at 225 pounds. Mondon was the number 2 off-ball linebacker prospect on Bob McGinn's rankings. So that's pretty notable right there. And some NFL scouts high on the future of Mondon, who I think immediately can make his impact be felt on special teams. Here's what a scout said on Mondon. George has done a great job producing linebackers, 2nd and 3rd round. Mondon's gone. Really good run and chase player, good interior blitzer, needs to clean up some things going on behind him in coverage, but he's really good in first level coverage. Being able to read and react, I think he relies more on his athletic ability than his instincts. He was also banged up a lot, but there's no doubt about that. Sometimes the instincts can be lacking for Mondon. And then before I leave you here and we depart on today's show, another notable scouting report that I saw from an NFL scout is on a UDFA safety out of Toledo, Maxon Hook. We know Nick Sirianni has been close with their head coach. He's had a long-standing relationship with that Toledo program, knows it well. Of course, the Eagles last year drafted Quinyon Mitchell at number 22. He shared a defensive backfield with Maxon Hook, and some people are high on Hook and what he can be at the NFL level. Here's what a scout said about him. He played the old monster back position, I would say 3rd round on the high side, no later than the 4th. I can see where somebody might identify with him and say, hey, this guy can be the glue that can hold it together back there. So this could be a steal for the Philadelphia Eagles. An AFC scout saying he's big, fast, he's going to be a stud on special teams. And that 3rd phase of the game under Michael Clay, special teams coordinator, obviously always very, very important. Do you like what the Eagles did in this draft? I've asked you for your grades, a little bit of a different question here, so we switch it up. Type L for like, D for dislike. Don't forget to comment down below, and of course, hit that subscribe button.